There is so much going on in the world right now that if you don't have complete and total command of your mind, you're going to get lost in emotions. People are going to stick their finger in the wind, see which way the crowd is going, and just follow along. If you do that, you'll be hopelessly lost. In today's video, I would like to break down some of that information because there are things out there right now causing a massive amount of cognitive dissonance, from Antarctica to the issue with Russia and Ukraine, South America, even here in the States. Real quick, the term cognitive dissonance is used improperly a lot, and I would like to go over this definition real quick so that everybody knows what it really is. It's something that happens when people's beliefs are challenged. Now, some just say it's getting upset. It's more than just getting upset. A mental conflict occurs when beliefs are contradicted by new information. This conflict activates areas of the brain. This is a real effect, by the way, involved in personal identity and emotional response to threats. The brain's alarms go off when a person feels threatened on a deeply personal and emotional level, causing them to shut down and disregard any rational evidence that contradicts what they previously regarded as quote-unquote truth. See, this is the key here. People will always go for the feel-good, reassuring lie rather than face any truth that causes them any level of discomfort whatsoever. This is true of people that are blown about by the winds of emotion. If you're somebody who has signed up over at the Florida Monkey Patreon channel, for example, and you've begun the training on how to get control of your mind, you'll start to see this in other people, where they will literally say one thing, and then 5 seconds later, they'll say something that totally contradicts it, and they won't even know they've done it. This is the key. People trying to avoid pain at all cost with the erroneous belief that all pain is bad. Not all pain is bad. Here's kind of a funny example. I thought if there was ever a time people could use a laugh, it would be now. It's from, of course, the comic strip Dilbert. And this guy is interviewing for a job. And the guy says, well, why should I hire you as my consultant? He says, I'll use my special process of cognitive dissonance, to improve employee morale. Well, how does that work? When people are in an absurd situation, their minds rationalize it by inventing a comfortable illusion. Boss says, okay, go do it. So the guy goes up to a random employee. Isn't it strange that you have this dead-end job when you're twice as smart as your boss? The hours are long, the pay is mediocre, nobody respects your contributions, and yet you freely choose to work here. That's totally absurd, isn't it? So the guy kicks into cognitive dissonance. It's absurd. No, wait, there must be I must work here because I love the work. And then, because that's a reassuring lie, he sticks with it. I love this job, even though he hates his job. This is exactly how cognitive dissonance works. Not all pain is bad. In fact, most pain is good. Now, you go out and take a hammer and bash yourself in the hand, that's bad. But this has been my issue with those who talk about marijuana being such a good thing. It's like any other drug. It just pushes off the real issue down the road that you're not dealing with. It's the same with prescription drugs. It's the same with alcohol. It's the same with so many other things. It's just a way of hiding. It is just a way of hiding because you have to take it forever. It doesn't fix anything. Like if you have indigestion, for example, there's something you can take and it fixes your indigestion. Do you have to take it forever for the rest of your life? No. See, that's a proper medication, proper use of one. You have a headache. You take a Tylenol. The headache goes away. Do you have to take Tylenol every 6 hours for the rest of your life? No. If you do to keep a headache away, then Tylenol is not your answer. Same thing with marijuana. Another example. I show these images. And people see one thing and they think I'm trying to lead them down some road where they might stumble. You see, when I look at this image, I see pain. I see sacrifice. I see someone who has done the hard work. And that, to me, is admirable and noble. I grew up in a huge family with all sorts of cousins, both older and younger, and I was the only athlete. I was the only person in my family that did any kind of extracurricular sports or even worked out at a basic level. The vast majority of my family on both sides, completely lazy, learned some terrible habits when I was really young, but thank God every day I got into football and joined the Army. Same thing with this picture here. A lot of people like to make up the cognitive dissonance reassuring lie. They look at this, go, oh, they are born like that. Oh, they just look like that naturally. That's not evidence of work or time in the gym or dietary discipline. They're just born like that. See, that's the cognitive dissonance reassuring lie. This is what we teach over at the Florida Maquis Patreon channel, how to separate difficult truths from reassuring lies based on thought, because I think the vast majority of the people out there really want the truth, but some of them might not be willing to accept the pain that might come with it. We all have to be constantly reassessing our belief systems and be able to be humble enough and have a strong enough ego to say, you know what, I was wrong. Thought I was right about this, and this is why I believed I was right, but now there's new information. And now that I look at all of the information, now I can see I was wrong, and now we can go forward with a better plan. Doesn't mean you won't ever be wrong again in the future. You just have to be able to accept that. Here's another great example. Dow Jones Industrial is down about 500 points. It was down 1,000 right at the opening. If you go back to January 4 of 2022, when it was at its highest, up at around 36,799, at least highest recently. And you see where it is today. It's off about, ballpark, about 10 to 15%. It's dropped since January, since the beginning of the year. However, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, you remember the big hedge against inflation? The way to keep your money safe when bad times come? Well, guess what? Since the first of the year, comparing apples to apples, it's down 24.22% since the beginning of the year, and it was even down more earlier today. So, stock market versus cryptocurrency, you would have done better in the stock market by 10%, even as bad as it's doing now. It keeps going. White House rebukes Brazil's Bolsonaro for solidarity visit to Moscow. And for those of you who haven't seen that, 7 days before all this went down, the leader of Brazil went and had meetings with Vladimir Putin, and I'm sure there was discussions, and he decided to stand with him. Now, it's going to make people scratch their heads a little bit, because people have this idea where things are either socialist and communist or capitalist. You see, anybody who would be for sanctions on Russia would be, by then definition, not a capitalist. Because sanctions, where you use business and economic disincentives, hurts business, hurts people making money. If you're a capitalist, how could that possibly be? But we've seen sanctions be used under Republicans and under Democrats. But all sanctions are just anti-capitalist events. Now, some would say, they warned me when I was talking about Venezuela. Aren't you afraid of Russia and China? Aren't you afraid of Russia and China? Well, Brazil is standing with Vladimir Putin. I'll bet Nicolas Maduro would too. Now, people would say, wait a minute, those two leaders are completely different. Well, apparently in this particular case, they're not. They would be shoulder to shoulder. So that would really make you scratch your head. Brazil, Venezuela, leader of Cuba. Very strange. You see, Brazil also has state-run oil. Socialized ways of producing revenue to finance their country. State-run oil, that was one of the things that people said, oh, you can't have state-run oil, that's too much socialism. Venezuela has state-run oil, so does Brazil. It operates the exact same way. PDVSA in Venezuela and Petrobras in Brazil. Brazil's record profits. State-run oil. People love the guy. And as we saw, even with Nicolas Maduro, he could walk amongst his people, even though Washington, D.C. told you that his people hated him. Isn't that strange? We don't hear much from random guy named Juan anymore, do we? And let's see here. Sanctions. New German gas contracts with Russia. Inconceivable. Media. Let's just shut down economies. Let's just hurt people. China points finger over Ukraine. Talks about the U.S. being hypocritical and having a double standard. Talking about, where do they say it here? Qin this, who is this? China's foreign ministry spokeswoman, Hua Chunying, I hope I said that properly, accused the U.S. of hypocrisy, asking whether Washington had respected the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Iraq and Afghanistan, where she said it had wantonly killed innocent people, and that's all true, going back many administrations. So a lot of conservatives who have been warning of Red Dawn and Russia, China, all of a sudden now are like, wait a minute, hold on, back up. This sounds a lot like what I've been saying for a long time, and Russia and China are saying the same thing that I've been saying about Washington, D.C. How can I find myself agreeing with them? And this is where it's really going to make a difference in the future. Russia and U.S., woo Brazil, hope to use an advantageous base for space launches. Guess who's going to win this fight? Brazil, Russia, India, China. Those four get together, they won't even need South Africa. They won't even need it. Now, as promised from yesterday, stunning story out of Australia. $1 billion to fly drones around Antarctica. Experts are concerned the move could trigger an all-out arms race. These are not my words. These are the words of experts. Experts are concerned that Australia's promise to spend close to $1 billion on a new fleet of drones and autonomous vehicles to fly across Antarctica could trigger an Antarctic arms race for surveillance technology. It's a situation that the Australian government doesn't have much experience with at all. On Tuesday, Prime Minister Scott Morrison announced that his government would commit $804 million to flying drones over the frozen continent in an effort to push back on China's growing presence in regions that Australia has already staked a claim for. See, this is going to be something that's going to shake up the world. This brand new continent, larger than all of Europe, full of all sorts of resources, and who's going to have it? Who's going to have it? This pinky swear treaty, this Antarctic treaty, which is really what it is. There's no enforcement mechanism to it from 1961. There's no enforcement mechanism. It's going to go by the wayside. And it's just going to be something where people are just going to go take it and dare anyone to stop them. But why would you spend $1 billion on drones? What are you looking for? What exactly are you looking for? And one of the quotes I find very odd: the money we are investing in drone fleets, helicopters, and other vehicles will enable us to, are you ready for this? Explore areas of East Antarctica's inland that no country has ever been able to reach before. So wait a minute. You're telling me that areas of East Antarctica nobody's been able to explore. Science has come out and definitively said there is no native habitation of Antarctica by anything other than seals and penguins and certain birds. But now they're saying, well, there's whole areas of the continent where no human being has actually ever put a physical eyeball on. Uh-huh. Yeah, tell me another one. Tell me another one. See, all of these years of looking at this satellite imagery, you're telling me nobody's looked at any of that? Nobody has looked at any of that and said, wait a minute, should we look at that? Should we look at that closer? See, they're saying free from conflict. There's going to be huge fights over Antarctica. Huge fights. The Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, announced $804 million for its intention to increase Australia's role in the increasingly contested region. See, this is the thing, nobody's talking about this. And it's a stunning thing, and I think history is going to look back and go, what was wrong with people? They had an entire continent on their own planet that virtually nobody knew anything about, but they were launching rovers to planets in the solar system that were months and months and months away. They didn't even know what was on their own world. It's just mind-boggling. But this is going to be something, guys, where you're going to have to look at it coldly and clinically, line by line. Because people are going to kick into cognitive dissonance. There are already stories out there, there's not really a war going on. There's nobody shooting at anybody. It's all just done with CGI and fake Hollywood. These people honestly believe that the entire world is staging all of this in Ukraine and Russia just to fool them. Just to fool them. Think about that for just 1 second. We would love to have you over at Patreon. To those of you who have already signed up, God bless you. Thank you so much for the support. I very much appreciate it. There's going to be a ton of content coming soon because there is so much to cover. So many things to cover regarding all of this and what's going on. And I'm sure when you take the training and then you look around and you see what some of your friends are saying and how they're behaving, you're going to see all of it. And it's going to be one of those wake-up moments that will change your life. But I'll leave it there. God bless, like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.